Well,
I don't have to go heads up with a kid all the time. It's a pain.
And you want answers. And you want answers, Tom. You're a guy who wants answers.
I do, but I mean, for the kids, my interaction with the children is from a place of love, like, from a place where I know that I'm blind to their life. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know what their situation is, and I hang on to that for dear life. And those kind of concepts are maybe what people are, their grip is loosening on that rope, and I don't fucking care about everybody else, but
Yeah.
if you ask someone like my wife, she'll say, well, what did you expect to happen? You have a capitalist society, by definition, there's people, lots and lots of people on the bottom. There's people getting stepped on the way up. People are the human cost of capitalism far outweighs the profit. And that's her stance. We called her a communist 30 years ago when she was at Mick Foster's house. You're a communist. And guess what? She was like, so that's not what I am, but that's stupid. But a little fucking human dignity might be helpful, like, gee, maybe I could, I talked to a kid who I have this relationship with him. He's mentally ill kid, and he has a prescription, and he can't get his prescription filled. And so he comes to school because he has to get out of his environment. Otherwise he gets into this dark cave. And I was like, well, why don't you take your meds? And he said, well, I don't like the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel vanilla. I like to be, excited. I said, oh, okay. I said, and then, that's layer 1. And then I'm lucky enough to be layer 2 or layer 3. And, he goes, I don't have medical insurance. I can't afford it. It costs me $100 a month or something. I'm like, that's fucking savage. Like if I was a different dude, I had $100, I'd buy him his fucking meds. But he doesn't seem too stoked about it. You know what I mean? He was not begging me for his meds, but that was the next level. And you just have to build up the lie. I have to build up the lie in my life sometimes. I get up in the morning and say, God, I'm gonna change lives today, Chuck. Can't wait to change lives today. Well, I didn't do so good today, or what? Some days more than others, and so,
yeah. Well, I think if you can,
it's fucking savage.
You can say that some of the time, then you're doing something to, again, it's again, if you can find that peace inside of you, then what you do for other people is that's where that energy comes from. I think, the more at peace I am inside, the more, even whenever my motor gets revved and I get a little angry and a little upset, but I can do good things. Otherwise, people have asked me a significant amount of times, I haven't taken the path of the dollar. I've survived on a lot less than some people do, and it's been kind of a thing where I made that choice a million times.
Almost all of your peers, honestly.
And some of those times I didn't necessarily know why I was making those choices, but when I look back at being able to be involved in coaching and all the people that I was able to interact with and all the people that I was able to make a difference in their lives and they made a difference in my life and those kind of things, I would make the same choice over again. Now I might maybe take it up a little bit of a notch, but I mean, it's like when I worked for the bank, I was a loan officer. I was, suit and tie guy every day to work. And I was on a path where I knew my leadership skills could have gotten me to a level where I could have made, a significant amount of money, but the environment and the day-to-day weight that it put on my shoulders, not the work, the people, the environment, the cutthroat, stab in the back, I got to put you down in order for me to stay up, kind of just, it was all I needed to see, and I'm glad I got to see it because it made the choices to move into something different a lot easier.
Did that put pressure on your relationships? George Bailey? You're George Bailey.
I'm sure it.
You're the richest man in town.
No, you love that. I know.
I love George Bailey, man. You're George Bailey. Did your choice to, because I'm assuming you were married at that time, did that affect your relationship very, very badly, or was it something that you both understood and you both wanted happiness, or how did that work?
I don't think the choice hurt my relationship. I think just the time factor of coaching was what hurt my relationship. And if I was a little older and a little smarter and maybe made more money, I don't know, maybe that would have made it easier on things. I'm not sure, but I don't think it.
Yeah, if you would have got one more promotion, it would have been hard to turn back, right?
It would have. Well, and if I would have jumped into a job, because I left the jobs to go back to school and then go, so there were lean times where my wife was working and and I was doing like UPS and stuff where I was making a decent amount of money, and I had insurance and those kind of things. So it wasn't like a brutal situation. But as I grew older and after that relationship was over, and I have dated in different sequences of having some relationships along the way, I think money always entered into it. The older I got, the more money was an issue.
Right.
The more money, the stability, the longevity of having a lot of money was definitely it's tough to it's kind of like I had Heineken tastes on a Budweiser budget. I was looking for women that were high class, and yet they were looking for something different. So it was interesting because I would find that we would have our personalities got us through that first few months of dating and having fun and getting to know each other, and then it became that was good, but are you committed to being able to buy another house and move on to the next level of things, and so I think it has a lot of to do with it. But I also think that if I would have made those choices, I would have been unhappy, and I wouldn't have made good choices as to the relationships that I would have been in, or I would have been in relationships where that would have been kind of the priority, and I would have been bummed out and upset that was so important. And
my pop psychology would say that those decisions, no matter how healthy they were for you, actually built walls to keep people out in a certain way. Like you get down the road so far, whether you turn 30, you turn 40, you turn 50, and you're like, this is me. My roommate in college has never been married. And I'm like, you're never going to get married, are you? He's like, no, I don't think so. Not at this point. There's just some random point where you're like,
right.
I don't know if I could, I don't know if that would, if I would be able to, because if there is, even if you say, well, my marriage is 20% compromise, you've worked very, very hard to not have that, and you've made choices, and you've gained respect from a lot of people for not bending. We know who you are. Of course, we're going to be very rich at the end of this podcast, but just so you know, so you better figure out where to spend that shit.
That's exactly right. And anybody out there who wants to send us some questions now, feel free. We'll roll up our contact information, and you guys can
Patreon. Chuck. These are all the very hard philosophy questions for me, because in that way, this podcast is bitching because I have the other life. I have I believe a successful marriage, and to be honest with you, the compromise, it's always a compromise between two good things. That's the fucking crazy part. It's like, okay, yeah, well, I guess it's not the lesser of two evils, it's the lesser of two goods, or the greater of two goods, or something like that. Like I have to say, oh fuck, Colleen, that was a fucking great idea. I'm not gonna argue about it. That's a fucking good idea. It's not my idea.
Right.
That's a fucking good idea.
Yeah, no, well, that should take us into our next conversation the next time we get together, and we should just straight up talk about ego and the influences of ego on our decisions and our happiness, and I think that has a lot to do with it. So we can definitely get into that a little bit.